Coming up on Network Africa. Uncertainty looms over Libya election slated for December 24 as Electoral Board suggests postponement by 1 month. The UN Human Rights Office calls for a probe into the allegations of rape and sexual harassment of protesters in Sudan. Plus, COVID-19 dashes the hopes of many Zimbabweans planning to travel to South Africa. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. Libya's Electoral Board is suggesting that this week's presidential election should be postponed by a month to January 24th. The statement by the High National Electoral Commission on Wednesday comes after a parliamentary committee tasked with overseeing the electoral process said it was impossible to hold the first round of presidential polls on Friday, December 24, as originally scheduled. Earlier this week, the head of the HNEC had ordered the dissolution of the electoral committees nationwide without naming a final list of candidates in a move that many see as effectively postponing the election. The collapse of the United Nations-backed electoral process had been widely expected amid ongoing disputes over the rules, including the eligibility of several divisive major candidates. Now, it's also coming after months of arduous preparations and international negotiations, dealing a major blow to efforts to end 10 years of chaos in the country. Joining us now for more discussions on this is Dr. Okwi Okmala, an African Affairs analyst. Thank you for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Thank you so much. It's always my pleasure.
What do you make of this call by Libya's Electoral Board to postpone elections, which is supposed to hold, in December, on December 24? That's just on Friday, two days.
Well, they've blamed that postponement on technical, judicial, and security reports. And if truth must be said, many people are already expecting that in view of so many issues, deep divisions concerning the legal framework, and also the challenges against some of the major candidates, divisive candidates. So it's expected. And it's also an opportunity for them to reset the whole election process, because there is most of the candidates are very divisive and may not command the respect of the entire populace. Now, it was expected that this election will start the process of rebuilding Libya after 10 years of conflict. It's expected that that will lead to, disbanding and sending home all the foreign mercenaries that have invaded Libya in view of their civil war. They needed a candidate that is strong, as a unifying factor, and then they needed an agreement that will make sure that the country's institutions is being reduced after the presidential election. But if they had gone ahead with this presidential election, it's not likely that that these objectives will be realized. So I think this postponement, bad as it is, disappointing as it is an opportunity to reset the whole process of rebuilding Libya.
Yeah, but just to clarify, the Electoral Board is suggesting the elections be postponed. It's not been confirmed yet if it will be postponed. So from what you're saying, you do agree with this. But, it's been months of preparation and international negotiations concerning these elections. How can regional and international players ensure this election holds?
Well, I think what needed to be done is that all hands must be on deck. The Libyan Political Dialogue Forum, which itself championed the peace we have enjoyed since 2020, Libya has enjoyed since 2020 through the transition period and setting up of transition government. And they should also come up and play some role. United Nations backed them well, and the African Union and other regional organizations. Now is the time to rally around and support Libya and support their institutions and make sure that all these candidates and all these forces come to an agreement so that it's not just holding election for election's sake, but election that will truly lead to democratic Libya, a Libya that is unified, Libya that is not, prone to conflict again, and militias that is not ruled by militias from different, some in the south, some in the east, and some in the west. So I think is all the interested parties, including the United Nations, including the Libyan Political Dialogue Forum, including the African Union, should come together and persuade key players to come to an agreement and develop a clear legal framework. Because part of the problem where this postponement is being suggested is because there is not even a legal framework. Nobody knows the powers, the limits of the powers of the president that will be elected. And so these are things that needs to be thrashed out so that, when the election holds, it will truly lead to a rebuilding of Libya.
Well, many would agree, and I think you also would agree that, these elections is what Libya truly needs. But who really is that person that will bring Libya out of its chaos? Let's look at the presidential candidates now. We have from Western Libya, former Interior Minister Fatih Bashaga. There's also the former Deputy Minister Ahmed Matik. There's also Khalifa Haftar. There's also the son of former leader Muammar Gaddafi. Are these people capable of bringing Libya out of its mess?
Well, they started with almost 95 presidential candidates. And then 25 was disqualified. The people were expecting the people were still expecting the final list of candidates to be released, but it was not released before this suggestion for postponement. Now, of course, there are candidates that are not likely going to command. Some of these candidates, like Haftar and Islam, that is the son of the Gaddafi, former leader of Gaddafi. These are highly divisive candidates. One will suggest that, if it's possible, let a fresh candidate, let a candidate that can easily be accepted by all segments of the country emerge. But then, of course, when you go into electoral process, some of them that you have to submit to the will of the people. But what Libya really needs is a candidate who will not be feared, who will command respect, who will also be able to rebuild the entire Libya, who every Libyan, no matter where they are coming from, we see as his or her president, not somebody that is so divisive and so who will be so much, who some people will be so afraid of that they may not say, instead of living under this presidency, let's go back to the trenches.
All right, then, we'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out in Libya. But we'd like to thank you, Dr. Okwi Opala, for speaking to us.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Moving on to other stories, spokesperson for the UN Human Rights Office is urging an investigation into Sudan into the allegations of rape and sexual harassment, as well as the allegations of death and injury of protesters. In a statement issued, Elizabeth Throssell says her office has received deeply disturbing reports of sexual violence and harassment by security forces during demonstrations in Khartoum on Sunday, 19th December 2021.
We have received deeply disturbing reports of sexual violence and harassment by security forces during demonstrations in Khartoum on Sunday, the 19th of December 2021. Our Joint Human Rights Office in Sudan has received allegations that 13 women and girls were victims of rape or gang rape. We've also received allegations of sexual harassment by security forces against women who were trying to flee the area around the presidential palace on Sunday evening. 2 protesters died after being shot and around 300 others were injured, some due to the use of live ammunition, some hit by tear gas canisters or beaten by security forces, and others who suffered breathing difficulties from tear gas inhalation. We urge a prompt, independent and thorough investigation into the allegations of rape and sexual harassment, as well as the allegations of death and injury of protesters as a result of the unnecessary or disproportionate use of force, in particular use of live ammunition. We note the Acting Attorney General's establishment of a committee of senior prosecutors to investigate all human rights violations and other incidents since the military coup of 25th of October. We have called on national authorities to make the findings of this investigation committee public with maximum transparency, with a view to holding to account, including through criminal investigations, those responsible for human rights violations and abuses. Since September, at least 250 civilians have been killed, 197 injured, and over 50,000 displaced by intercommunal violence. There have been serious protection gaps in Darfur, especially following the reduction of state security forces in key areas in Darfur and long delays in implementation of a national plan for civil protection.
The Omicron variant is dashing the hopes of many Zimbabweans who are trying to go to South Africa for the Christmas holiday. Now, this close to Christmas, scores of Zimbabwean travelers would normally be packed at bus stations rushing to get home from neighboring South Africa to see their loved ones. However, bus drivers are seeing far less people than expected.
On a normal Christmas, the undercarriage of Augustine Chibaye's bus would be packed with the belongings of Zimbabweans looking to make the at least 15-hour trip home from neighboring South Africa to see their families. Instead, it's empty. Bus drivers like Chibaye had been hoping for a bumper festive season to help their businesses, reliant on a steady stream of travelers between the two nations recover from COVID-19. However, the emergence of Omicron prompted Zimbabwe to introduce mandatory quarantine for arrivals, forcing many to cancel their plans.
Yeah, since COVID started, we don't have a business. You look as you see, it's very quiet. Even the booth, I have look no business. This quarantine, this is COVID killing our business. So people are scared when they go into Zimbabwe, they are getting quarantine. So no one business as usual. It's compared another years. So this year there's no business.
For Albert Mawere, a local bus driver, the last 2 years have been extremely difficult, having last seen his family and children in 2018 due to financial constraints. He's determined to travel despite the quarantine mandate. When himself and his wife arrived in Zimbabwe, he had to also borrow money in order to afford their quarantine costs.
I'm going to travel 3 days, you see. And you see, as they say that when they quarantine us, we must use our own, you see, monies, you see. Yeah, we are prepared to do that, you see, because we stayed a long time here in South Africa, you see. So we must see our parents also, yeah.
Augustine Chibaye's firm would normally send 4 buses per day with up to 60 passengers during December. Now it sends 1, sometimes with as few as 5 people on board. He and all the drivers at Central Johannesburg bus station say the loss of business has affected their ability to support their families.
Omicron surge has affected business a lot because quite a number of people are no longer able to travel. And also on our side, we cannot be able to make plans for the holiday, considering that we have to, especially the issues of quarantine. If you get into quarantine now, you're going to take about 14 days, and then the holiday is already over.
Unfortunately, the hope of these drivers for a bumper festive season has been dimmed, and they wonder when things will change back to normal.
Still to come on the program. We visit an Egyptian well-being inspired retreat focused on mental health and being well. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We continue here in Nigeria, where Christian faithful have been encouraged to take seriously matters of COVID-19 and observe every safety protocol provided. That advice is coming from the General Superintendent of the Deeper Life Bible Church, Pastor William Kumuyi. He was speaking during a media rally ahead of the church's global crusade.
Concerning COVID-19, I want to say that from my observation and from my, looking at things, I know that COVID-19 is real. And it's not fake, it's not politically arranged something to do whatever, it's real. We've had people who had real COVID-19 situations, and they were in isolation. In fact, one of our men, one of our, pastors, was about passing on. According to him, he had said his last prayer because in that isolation, he had seen other people dying, just going like that. And then I knew about it, and I called him on phone and prayed with him. And the Lord brought him back to life. In America, we have a family. The child went to school and then got COVID-19, came back home. The father, the mother, the 3 children, making 6 of them, they all had COVID-19. And again, they called on phone, and I prayed with them, and by the grace of God, everything was fine. Just this week, in that is Democratic Republic of Congo, one of our leaders there was in isolation, and it was COVID-19. And again, they called on phone, I prayed, I got the text yesterday, he's now discharged, everything is all right. So COVID-19 is real, but God has solution for every problem.
In the meantime, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has called on residents of the state to take necessary precautions to avoid any fire mishap and be security conscious during this festive season. Governor Sanwo-Olu expressed this at the 2021 Community Day celebration at Police College, Ikeja. He also used the opportunity to appeal to the public not to disregard the COVID-19 safety guidelines while celebrating during this period.
Residents from various communities across Lagos State gather at the Police College Ikeja to witness the 2021 Community Day celebration. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and some cabinet members are also present at this event, organized by the Ministry of Local Government and Community Affairs, where emphasis is placed on the importance of developing the grassroots as a strategic factor for empowerment.
The theme for this year's celebration, which is consolidating ongoing development in our various communities. This program is in line with the United Nations initiatives for social development and integration at the grassroots.
The Yuletide season officially began on Tuesday this week, as with a few days to Christmas. Governor Sanwo-Olu asked residents to be security conscious during the festive period and also adhere to all COVID-19 safety protocols.
As we're going into the Yuletide season, please let's be very vigilant and let's make sure that we're our brother's keeper. If you see something, as we continue to say, please say something. In all of our markets, please avoid having combustible items. There should not be any fuel, there should not be any petrol that is left behind in your market. Because of the harsh weather, which is the Harmattan season, the fire can be triggered very, very easily. Let's ensure that in all of our engagements, let's continue to just keep those simple protocols, of ensuring that, we use our face masks, places where we go to, especially if it is in a closed environment, let's make sure that we are using our face mask to speak to ourselves.
There was a march past by the different communities within 57 councils in the state. And the governor presents various prizes to the best performing local council development area.
Still in Nigeria, the Kayode Fayemi administration in Ekiti State is racing against time to ensure all projects at hand are completed before the tenure expires next year. 2021 has been eventful for the administration, with significant projects completed and commissioned. But the governor says more is still coming in less than 1 year to go.
Road infrastructure is regarded as a crucial aspect of industrial development and serves as connectivity amongst communities. In Ekiti State, southwest Nigeria, the Fayemi administration has so far completed some strategic roads, including 1,000 kilometers of rural roads to ease access to farms and support agriculture. And for various self-help projects, 70 communities across the state recently received checks totaling 500 million naira. To the education sector, which is not left out of this, some new secondary schools have been built, and following an increase in enrollment and facility support, the College of Agriculture has now been upgraded to a polytechnic. Within the power sector, the state's 4.5 megawatts independent power project is in progress and is expected to service public institutions and key private sector areas. Some of these projects and achievements have not gone unnoticed by the presidency.
In the inaugural edition of Nigeria's own homegrown subnational ease of doing business baseline survey, the survey was commissioned to serve as a status report on the current attractiveness of business environments of states for small and medium-sized enterprises. Ekiti State was strongest in the skills and labor and infrastructure and security indicators. Also in the last World Bank Ease of Doing Business Subnational Survey of Nigeria, the last one, which was released in 2018, Ekiti excelled in the area of dealing with construction permits, ranking fourth in the entire nation.
This civic center with multiple facilities was abandoned when the governor could not secure a second term in 2014, but it's now completed and ready for use. While giving account to those tasked with the oversight functions, Governor Fayemi says his desire is to complete all other projects and impact all sectors by the end of his tenure.
We started by taking account of all abandoned projects that we inherited, mapped out plans for their resuscitation, and I'm glad to report that most of these projects have been completed, while the remaining few are at various stages of completion. It is clear that the job is not yet finished, even if a lot has been achieved.
For the Fayemi administration, the speed of development will be sustained, and the aim is to end well next year.
Step through a gateway into a new you at this Egyptian's well-being-inspired retreat. After quitting her job, her high-paying job, an Egyptian woman has now founded a retreat focused on mental health and well-being.
Wooden gates dot the large piece of farmland which Madia Mansa turned into a wellness retreat for Cairo dwellers wanting to escape the hustle and bustle of Egypt's busy capital. Visitors of the farm, which lies on a coastal road 50 kilometers away from the city center, choose between a simple day barbecuing to yoga and meditation retreats, art and musical activities, and most importantly, a refreshing reboot from their busy lives. Adults are encouraged to sit with nature and practice farming while teaching their children to respect their surroundings, which Mansa says is an opportunity to nourish the soul. The 48-year-old, who was once a regional manager in the oil sector, decided to leave her high-paying job and jetting across the world, opting instead to return to her roots and heal what she says was years of accumulated exhaustion.
أنا طبعاً أول لما جيت كنت لسه بالفكر أكتر بتاع البيزنس مايند.
I reached an age where I wanted to have my own private business, and at the same time, I was very exhausted. It's a lot of work to be constantly traveling. There was a time where I spent 4 nights out of 5 days on planes, no sleep, and my son reached an age where he needed me more. But I had tenders worth billions and huge projects to finish. So I decided to have the courage to start this project, but at the same time I was terrified.
The idea behind the gates erected around the property is a metaphoric and symbolic way to step into a new phase of one's life.
Each one of these gates represent a phase more so than a concept. For me, I feel for people to reach a certain level of freedom and personal comfort or achieve their dreams, some might get there by meditation. Some do it by getting a certain promotion at work. Some may be through art. So each one of these gates remind us that we can have the courage to pass through them that will take us to where we want to be.
Mansour hopes the farm can be used in sustainable tourism ventures and will one day be able to welcome visitors fresh off a tour of the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is being built close by.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.